good morning, Coach.
Happy Thursday. It's February 7th. Welcome. Crushing Iron Triathlon Podcast. Zero sports talk. All tri-talk today.
No. Sorry I was a little late there. I was putting out some fires.
Putting out fires?
Yeah. I was making coffee.
Well, hey, listen, if you can't
Start fires.
Yeah, that's exactly. You can't start fires without coffee. So I am fully fueled, as usual, at this time of day. So I've had 2 cups, and that might be it for the day. Sometimes I have a little pick-me-up around 12, but we'll see how the day goes. I might not need it. Usually podcast days keep me energized with our discussion and our topics, so we'll see. But we appreciate you joining us. Come to you every Monday and Thursday without fail, as we have for 2.5 years, and gaining ground on 240 episodes.
We are on number 240.
240.
Yeah.
As I continue to bat 1,000 on podcast numbers this year.
Yep.
And we're all in for a treat because it doesn't usually happen, but Mike has prepped what feels like extensively for this podcast with notes and an outline, Word doc included, after what is no doubt hours of reading by one of his old friends, Mr. Hemingway.
Yes, indeed.
one of your old buddies.
It's I thought an interesting idea. It wasn't a list or hacks by Hemingway or anything like that. It was just something I pulled out of.
That'd be a great teaser.
Hacks by Hemingway.
Yeah, hacks by Hemingway. I mean, he'd probably roll over in his grave if he ever saw that headline. But can I say one thing before you hop in with this?
Oh yeah, I'm not ready to hop in. Go for it.
Okay, just making sure. Some people like for us to dive right in. Forget the warm up. Let's just cannonball right into the deep end. Forget about wading in and testing the waters with their toes. Let's dive in.
Yeah, let's pat ourselves on the back a little first.
Do what now?
Pat ourselves on the back a little bit first.
Oh, is that what we're doing today?
Well, no. That's what everybody else does.
This is true. Look at me. I do have to say, I don't know if I'm assuming you did because you got another email from me this morning already, but I'm assuming you had time to read an email that we got last night.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just going to say, yeah, it's like we've been getting a lot of good emails lately, actually.
Yeah, I have to say this, and I say this comes from the bottom of my heart that, we do give a crap a lot of times about just really not caring about what people think. I couldn't give less of a shit, to be honest with you. We do this podcast for us, and it helps us. It's always helped us. It's helped us to connect. It's helped us to talk through things. It's helped us to share. I think anytime you can share your experiences and what you're going through or what you have gone through, then anyone that's listening or paying attention or chooses to be ready to hear something can hopefully apply it to their life. And it blows my mind that people will email us and share some of their stories, not just about how the fact that we consistently for 2+ hours a week give out free content that hopefully is good, and that is something that you can readily apply to become not just a better triathlete, but hopefully a happier one. And that's really, I think, at the core of what we try to accomplish and try to convey through our messages and our talks and our conversations. But to have people that we've never met, and it probably happens once a week, sometimes once or 2 weeks, but to somehow in a phrase say, you've helped change my life. Mm-hmm. And not just in triathlon. I think we got that email yesterday, and then I got 2 other text messages from athletes that I work with, and it's incredibly humbling. And it's very, it just invigorates me daily to obviously to work with athletes just like you do now, but to get these emails, and I think just the important thing is thank you for giving us that feedback, but you and I have both gone through our trials and tribulations and coming and going of being in the zone and not being in the zone, and very forgettable aspects and parts of our life, to now parts of our life that we won't ever forget, in a good way. And so we don't, I think, and I hope that that's what we convey, I think sometimes, or most of the time, is that we've been there or we are there, and it's either we're going through it with you or we've been through it, and nobody's perfect, nobody's life is perfect, and everybody's shit stinks, and I just think that it's incredibly gratifying and humbling, and to know that we can have that impact. But lastly, anybody can have that impact if you're willing to open up and share things, and be realistic about your life, and that life does suck sometimes, as so does training. It's not Instagram flat bills and big shiny shades. Yeah. It's hard work. Everything is. Life's hard, but it can be just incredibly awesome if you surround yourself with the people that you should, and you follow the people that you should, and you ask for help from people that you should. And so we try to share as much as we can, and we can only, I think the reason I just don't care really about what other people think is that if you're ready to hear something, you're going to hear it. Mm-hmm. If you're not ready to hear it, then it doesn't matter what I say. I could tell you to, one thing that's ultimate absolute fact, but if you're not ready to hear, not ready to listen, then you're not going to like it anyway. And so, we're here to share our stories, and again, we very, very appreciative to anybody, honestly, that listens to what we have to say.
Yeah. And I honestly think that we decided early on that we knew that this couldn't be 100% triathlon discussion all day, all night. It just runs out of gas. And most of the time we do get those emails, they are from people who have been struggling in life and caught on to some of the other stuff. And you're right. I mean, this isn't just us sitting here, trying to tell people how to do stuff. I feel like it's sort of more of we've been through a lot of stuff, and we're trying to figure it out as we go as well. And there's certain things that, because I think we have been on sort of, these podcasts are a reflection of our discussions that we've had over the years. Mm-hmm. Or not even a reflection, just sort of like a continuation of our discussions. And I think we realized early on that whenever we did get together to discuss triathlon, it went to different places, and we both understood that triathlon is sort of like the kind of flame that can help you get things going right, or it can be an example for how to do things right. And so it's way more than that. It's way more than how to work on your cadence, or how to measure power or heart rate, or or whatever. I
mean, yeah, and that was like the thing that I think that resonated with you and I the most back when we were kind of looking back on how much we hated things. Was, at least for me, was anytime we got around like a certain group of people, the only thing we ever did was talk about triathlon. Mm-hmm. That's it.
Yeah.
It was the only topic. And I remember looking back on it, and this is like 6 years ago something. I remember thinking like, no wonder. Because like when that's all you had to talk about, and that's the only, like, there's just so much more to life and to people and to what's going on, and I think it's just, a lot of times it's just a reflection of your priorities or your lack of understanding of what's really important in your life. I mean, at that point in my life, that was all I had that I was hanging my hat on. I mean, my life was in just absolute turmoil and shambles. But now it's just like, again, like you said, you do a triathlon podcast and you realize that you just can't. I mean, if you can, but you can try, but it's going to be repetitive, and it's just going to be a lot of pressure to create, that content without kind of going, other directions. But yeah, it's just an extension of our conversations that we've had and continue to have, and I'm glad if it helps one person. That's why I do it for free.
Yeah, and I'm glad. I mean, honestly, I'm sort of a little bit proud of the fact that, because we get a lot of suggestions, I guess, and they're meaning suggestions about how to build our brand and conquer the world and get tons of followers and the whole 9 yards. And we kind of, I don't know if we do it. We do it consciously. I think we pull back on the reins, and the reason we're not super polished, I think, all the time on certain elements of our branding and things like that is because we know that we just want to, stay true to ourselves and grow with under control and legitimately, and not at the expense of just throwing a bunch of people in some kind of pen and hoping we can get more results or something like that. So anyway, I think that's just sort of the core of what's going on a lot of times, and it's just really great to hear people and just get to know them and talk about their stuff with them. People that email us, you can email me at crushingiron@gmail.com. Coach is C26 at coach@gmail.com.
That's me.
That's Robbie.
On the Hemingway.
Yeah, so over the years, I think we've talked about, I'm a huge fan of writers and writing in general, and I've talked about that a lot, and you are as well, and reading and all that sort of thing. And we've talked about Steven Pressfield, who is wrote The War of Art and Do the Work a lot, and there's several other authors that we've mentioned throughout the times, and we think there's a lot of because I look at writing, a lot of people look at writing as a hobby and something that everyone wants to write a book and blah blah blah, but the reality of it is you have to look at writing as a craft, and if you want to get better, and that's kind of how I started. I was reading this Hemingway, A Moveable Feast, and I started seeing he was writing about writing in the book, and it was he was making up stories but weaving in some things about how he writes and how he gets into patterns, and arguably one of the greatest writers of all time. I'm sure we could probably learn something from him. So I started thinking about it, and I found like 5 things that they weren't listed as bullet points, like I said, and they were just sort of really cool thoughts that I thought.
What do you mean they weren't listed? You tell me he didn't sneak in a chapter there that was like Millennials Triathlon Secrets, 80, 100 years in the making. You trying to tell me Hemingway wasn't ahead of the curve?
He was ahead of the curve, I think, on many levels, but not in that curve. So the first where it started with me was when I wrote, or when he was writing in a cafe in Paris or something, and he started talking about writer's block, and it immediately triggered this idea that sometimes we just can't get to our workouts. So he said he handles writer's block like this. He says he always can handle, he can always figure it out. He just has to remember to sit back, relax, and write the truest sentence he knows. He said, it's about, he can't, I love how he, I wish I had that handy here, but he was talking about writing in general, and it's like how many people try to be something they're not and try to write fiction without having any clue about what it's really like to go through certain things or whatever like that. And he says, I always write what I know. That's the only thing I can do. He has to experience it and go through it, and that's the best writing. So what I got to thinking about that was, if you have sort of trainer's block or training block, how do you get into a groove or whatever and do what feels the most pure to your body? And I sent you a list. It's like if you can't get something going, if you're struggling to work out, if you're in a little rut, what do, man?
Just do something.
Yeah. So what
anything. Take your dog for a walk. Yeah, I mean, and I think like the same thing would go for writer's block is like if you sit down and expect to write something just grandiose every time you sit down, then you're never going to start, because you're always going to feel like you have to, whatever you're about to write has to be great. Mm-hmm. And the same thing goes with training, and like this is like a great time of year to even like just discuss that topic as a whole, because everybody has all these grand expectations and goals and resolutions that happened a month ago, and at some point, everyone's going to fall short. It doesn't mean you're going to fall short for months. It just means sometimes you're going to fall short, and that's okay. But there's this paralyzing stalemate of fear that happens when athletes, and I would assume riders alike, totally look to create and be great every time pen touches paper or shoes go on the feet.
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't feel like they can, then they just won't. They just won't show up. They won't even do the work because they don't feel like it's going to meet their expectation or this internal, it's not desire, it's just this internal pressure to always be on or to always perform at the highest level that gets you X, Y, and Z. You're gonna have stage fright. You're gonna have writer's block. You're going to be scared to put your shoes on because you're afraid of what you're gonna see. And like that's why I always tell athletes, like the longer and longer you stay out of training, the harder it's gonna be to come back. Because you're gonna sit there and you think, I've lost so much fitness. I don't even want to see these numbers.
Right.
I just don't want to see it. But you just got to get back to like, what do you love, and why do you love it? And like, for me, when 5 years ago when I got sober, the very first thing I did, the very first workout I did, when I got back, when I got out of treatment, I'd been 90 plus days, and even before that, I was just like, dude, I was like a hot mess, But I was worth nothing. But the first thing I did, I didn't have a car, barely had any belongings, didn't have any money. I had Allie drive me to the Centennial Sportsplex, and I just got in the pool. I think I did maybe 1,000. And I remember I just jumped in first and just felt like, because swimming it's been the water in general, and swimming to me, this has always been like my thing. I love it. I have a connection with it. And I think everybody else has, like, you have a connection with your bike. Like, I think a lot of people just have like connections with specific things and even sports within triathlon. And that was swimming for me. And I just remember jumping in the water and just feeling like this is where I'm supposed to be. And the workout meant nothing. Like the result meant nothing to me. But I did I didn't like hop on the bike and do an FTP test. I didn't like go out and try to do a 5K time trial. Let me see how much it's funny because people like to do that for really two different reasons. Like very rarely do people use it to measure progress. They use it to either prove or validate an expectation, mm-hmm. or to prove how much they've lost. I just want to see how much fitness I've lost. Let me go and see, just kind of really see what I'm at. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, let me go see how much I suck, or let me go see if I'm going to meet these ridiculous expectations I set. But God forbid we fall somewhere in between, and we're just measuring progress for the love of measuring progress and being a part of it.
Oh man, that just made me want to take an ACT test right now. Can you imagine? I can't be like 0.
Let me see. Yeah, let me go back to high school real quick. Like, I'm like dreading I can do the math, but like the other stuff, I'm dreading when like Hayden gets older. Like, hey, Dad, can you help me with this? Yeah. Hey, Allie, come here. Hey, need some help with it. And then I'm also going to tell him, like, dude, none of this stuff matters. But I'm sure that'll lead to a fight. But that's how it is. And so, like, again, back to like the writer's block. Like, if you have these expectations of everything is going to be great, then you're never going to live up to your own, like, unrealistic and like zero, validation of life and training and everything you do, because you're always going to be wanting more or wishing you had more, never being satisfied. And at some point, you're just going to feel like you're never going to meet that pressure or that expectation. So at some point, you're going to just quit trying.
Yeah.
Instead of just doing, like, do the truest thing that feels the best. Because again, this is what it's all about. It's about feeling good. Like, feel good. What feels good to you today? Give yourself a choice. Like, so many things in life, we don't have choices. You got to do so many things in life. You just can't, like, I just don't even feel like doing that today. Yeah, you probably got to. But there's just these are opportunities that we create in time that we carve out of our day to allow ourselves the opportunity to feel good and to feel like what we're doing matters and to feel like we're reinvesting in ourselves. And too many athletes waste that time every single day by using it as a barometer or as a point to reach that they pulled out of nowhere to tell themselves that they're succeeding or failing. And you're going to always end up failing in the long run.
Yeah. The pressure of writing the next great novel is huge. Or trying to get to Kona is huge. And yesterday, I wasn't feeling that great, and I had a big gear workout, and I just did not feel like getting my trainer, but to your point, man, I jumped on my mountain bike. That's where my true love is my it's my easy place. And I just started riding, and I rode over to that big hill that that's just past this doesn't mean anything to anybody else, but you know where it is, but past that school dog park over there or whatever, on the way out to the dam.
Yeah.
And I went down that hill, and I just started doing hill repeats on my mountain bike, as in lieu of a big gear workout. But it just felt so right, and I just kept doing them. Nice, slow, in control. Just like, all right,
because you feel a connection.
Yeah.
And not a disconnect from. It's because I think we always do this. Like, and I've tried to do this when you're like, man, it's like the best things I've ever written for the blog I never planned on.
Mm-hmm.
But when you and I have these like conversations, like we probably gotta create more blogs. People like reading it, and then I'll sit down and try to force myself to write one, and I'll get like 3 sentences deep, and I'm like, F it, this is terrible.
I know.
And you the same because you write so much more than I do. But I'm like, but the best ones I've had is like, I get an idea, and a thought crosses my mind. I'm like, what? I feel like writing, not I feel like I have to do this, and then you just force it, and then you're just kind of disgusted with it. You're like, this is just total garbage. I can't do this. But we do that with ourselves, and that's, I so much admire and respect and athletes who have this, that are so in touch and connected with mind and body that during sessions they'll be like, dude, I just didn't have it today, and instead of digging deep and doing something I should have, I just cruised it on easy.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of B, bailing, or C, crushing themselves and not listening. Because there's so many times, like, the connection between mind and body and they're rarely together. It's just being aware and mindful and patient enough to listen to the conversation, because it's never a 10-second chat. It's a long ass conversation. And that's why we always say, like, during training, especially in running, when you're accumulating fatigue, do not judge a run on the first 20 minutes or a ride on the first hour. Like, you talk to your body and your body's going to talk back. And then you just got to kind of find like a happy medium. It's a relationship. And if one of your ears isn't open to listening, if your body isn't open to listening to your mind and your mind isn't open to listening to your body, then at some point they're going to detach, and one's going to go haywire, and it's going to be hard to get back on track. But you have to listen to your body and say, all right, I'm feeling super motivated today mentally, but my body's like, that's great, good news, I'm happy for you, let's hug it out, but I ain't got much today, man. So you go, okay, well, what's the best we can do with what my body is willing to offer? And at the same time, your body might be chirping at you, be like, hey, dude, I'm feeling saucy today. And your mind's like, that's great, I got like 5 hours of sleep, and I'm super stressed, and I've got this extra work thing on my mind. I don't know how I'm going to be able to, I don't know if I'm going to be able to like do it. And so again, you got to be able to adapt, like, what? Okay, so let's do this together. But you can't just disregard everything on each end of that and not listen. And because if you do, you're going to lead to overtraining and injury and burnout, mental fatigue, emotionally draining. Like, you just can't do it. I think you have to, like, so much of like training and the relationship with your body is so much like, the more you do it, and this more seasoned and experienced an athlete you are, the more you can do it. You know, it's like the first like couple of relationships you ever had. You're like, this is pretty easy, man. I'm in that, you know, like the infatuation stage, and you're like, life is great. I'm probably gonna marry you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm in 7th grade. That's probably not gonna happen. And like, you know, you realize like so much of what you thought about relationships as you get older is like totally the exact opposite. And then everything is going to be totally perfect all the time, and you're never going to have fights, and you're never going to have disagreements, and everything is going to be perfect, and it's going to be like, you know, the old-timey classics, black and white with, you know, picket fence. And then you get to real life and you're like, man, this is hard work. And it's give and take, and you got to listen, and you got to be objective, and you got to be humble, and you got to be, give and take. And it's just, it takes time to do that, but at some point you have to start listening, and then you have to also hopefully surround yourself with people that are going to tell you, hey man, guess what? It's okay to listen. Like, it's okay to not do this. Like, kudos to you. It means you're becoming, you know, you're maturing as an athlete when you can listen to these conversations and not just be a stubborn mule and just blunt force every single training session. Like, that's not good. You don't get extra credit for that. Mm-hmm. For writing, you don't get extra credit for me asking you to write a 10-page paper. You don't get extra credit for writing 18 pages of bullcrap. Mm-hmm. You get great points and a great grade for writing maybe even just a page under, but having really awesome content and making it really, really impactful.
Yeah. So anyway, we can wrap this section up. When I read what he said, write the truest sentence you know, it's like it took a big weight off me. I mean, you hear that, I've known that, and when sometimes when you see things written or you hear things in different ways, they click, and it really just clicked with me that, you know, the pressure of trying to be somebody I'm not doesn't have to be there with my writing. And it made me remember that my experiences are important. And when that translates into training, is like you can actually enjoy something, and it doesn't have to be like a fight every day. You can go do whatever, hiking, swimming, whatever, cycling, mountain biking, rollerblading, whatever is your thing. And it's okay. Took a big weight off. The second thing I pulled out of there, and I just really love this one too. He was talking about when he gets on a roll and he's got a story going, and he can really see a lot of what's coming at him, and he's writing really well, and he's got maybe like something, the next chapter even in his mind. He always leaves ideas in the tank, so he stops while he's ahead. He always stops while he has more. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was just such a great thing, you know, regarding training for so many people. One time I read this thing, this guy was a martial artist. I think I've mentioned in the podcast before, but he said exercise is supposed to give you energy, not take it away. And I really like the idea of leaving something in the tank, and how he does it. He said once he stops writing, he knows he could keep going because he's got the whole story kind of like bubbling in his mind, but he stops and walks away, and he immediately distracts himself, so he's not percolating on that, so he's not obsessing over what could have been at that moment. He believes that subconsciously those ideas will get even better if he just knows they're in there, and he just can, so he'll go do something completely different to get away from it.
Mm-hmm. Leaving some on the table so you don't feel drained for the next day. Mm-hmm. And that is like, again, there's so much restraint in becoming great. And I think that the most overlooked aspect in training, when you look at great athletes and the great performances at every level of our sport, there's restraint. Because they know they have the ability. I mean, this has probably been like the nitpicky stuff people have had about Lionel Sanders, that he blows his load in training. Mm-hmm. He can't help himself. And so many athletes are like that too, which is I think why he has such a huge following. Besides, he's pretty personable. It's like I want to do that too. I want to crush myself every day.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, well, wait a minute. I can't understand why I can't do it on race day. It takes an incredible amount of restraint to not crush yourself. Like, again, you don't get extra points for digging yourself in a hole. Like you need to be able to wake up the next day and continue to do it and do it all over again. And some athletes struggle with this. They feel like they have to add on 10 more minutes or 5 more reps because it's going to make them better. It might make you feel better in the moment, but you're now choosing, because of your ego, to sacrifice the next 2 days. So tell me if that 10 minutes or that 5 minutes, that extra threshold effort or going too hard on your run when it's supposed to be easy, when you just could not do it.
Mm-hmm.
My legs led the way. I'm like, bullshit, your mind leads the way. And it just takes an incredible amount of restraint, but it also takes a huge understanding and patience and buy-in from both athlete and coach. Because I think I was thinking about this yesterday, one of the most talked about aspects is how hard it is for coaches to not program testing all the time, or PR type workouts, or epic sessions, or sessions where an athlete might see an instant result on that day. Because a lot of the way coaches look at things is like if an athlete doesn't see immediate progress, then maybe they're going to leave me. So I need to show them I need to show them like once a week that this was a breakthrough workout, that this was it. This is how we do, you're getting better at this random ass Tuesday at 8 a.m. on a totally different, route with different conditions. Like, see, gotcha. We're doing it, man. We're doing it big.
Yep.
It takes so much restraint for a coach to be like, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
You need to wait. We're going to wait. And I promise you, if we continue to ride this wave together and we continue to be consistent and we don't try to crush ourselves and we show restraint, then I promise you when it matters, we can do it. Yeah. Instead of, you just you have to have that fire to wake up every day and do it. And if you choose to crush yourself or empty your tank or write all your words or run all your miles, the next day you're just not going to have it. And again, back to your first point, you may have the faulty expectation of being able to repeat that. And again, that goes back to like that beat yesterday, always have to be better every single day, when again, that's not reasonable, or should it be expected?
Yeah. And well, two things. A lot of people will have questions about, for example, and you and I talked about this with me regarding, I'm doing Chattanooga 70.3 and there's a half marathon. I think it was about a month away here in Music City. And we talked about that and thought, well, is it like really that bad, or to run like 13 miles, a month away from a 70.3? Probably not, right? If you're just training, running it. But if I were to go out and, because I can't really probably hold back during a race, I'm just not that type of guy. But the point of that is that two of your biggest training weeks are right after that. So how are you going to feel if you go out and blast a half marathon, and how's that going to affect the next week that is a really important training week? So that's sort of like an example of leaving something in the tank. And then yesterday, I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but you were talking to, you replied to an email, and I was on it, to someone who asked a question, and you asked him a question about how, does this, like you said, if you're doing the same exact workout 3 weeks apart or whatever, but you have the exact same numbers, to have you improved, and how do you know if you've improved? And I thought that was a great thing, because you're talking about load and how your load has increased, your numbers have stayed the same, and you feel like the same or better about the workout. That means there's improvement there, but how hard is that to recognize for somebody?
It is so counterintuitive to the world that we live in. because we live in instant results. Well, that's not true. That's a total lie. It's what people, and I think so many things, want you to believe. It's not about instant results. It's about the appearance of better and easier. It's not about instant results, because guess what? Instant results, I mean, let me give you an analogy. Somebody telling you're going to get instant results is the same person who's going to say they lost weight after they took a crap.
That's a good point.
It's the same thing. It's the same freaking thing. But again, like, and I was telling this athlete that it's good. It's hard to critically, and I was trying to get this athlete to critically think. And I get athletes like this too, and that's where, because you have athletes all the time, they're like, tell me what you see in the data. Tell me what you see. I'm like, well, I'm gonna tell you what I see, and I see that you've only worked out like 3 days this week. So what I see is you don't talk to me about data or what I see in numbers until you've actually done the work to provide me a large enough sample set. Like when they do scientific research papers, they're not like, you know what, we took one subject on one Tuesday at 5 p.m. and their results were this, and now we have come to this grand conclusion and thesis on why this is this. No, they take multiple subjects over weeks and weeks and weeks. That's how you're able to get data that matters. So don't come to me after like 3 days or missing sessions if they're like, what do you see in the data, coach? What do you see that I'm improving on? What kind of analytics? I'm like, yeah, what I see is need to get your shit together and get your workouts in. And then once you've done all that, then we can sit back and we can start to break it down. Until then, slow your roll. But after that, the example I was giving, because again, you know this, that I think varieties for the week is you can give an athlete in a specific block the same type of session, like on a bike. Let's give a bike workout, for example. You do a bike workout, and let's say the athlete A, their normalized power for the whole ride was like 220, and their intensity factor, so their IF, was around 85. And the next week, it was fairly close to the same thing. Maybe it was 84. And then the next week, maybe it was 86. And then the next week, maybe it's back to 85, or maybe it jumped up to 87 intensity factor, and their watts went up from 220 to maybe back down to 219, then back up to 222, maybe 223 in the last 4-week block. Some people will look at that under a microscope and say, see, I'm not getting much better, man. I'm not doing much better. Like, my bike's just stuck. Even A, it was 4 weeks, but B, they don't take a step back and look, let's see, week 1, my total training volume was 8 hours, no days off. The second week, my total training volume was 11 hours, no day off. That third week, again, more training volume, no days off. Last week, again, more training volume, no days off. And I've been running 4 to 5 days a week. So on a microscopic level, you look at it like, I'm just kind of stuck. But then you step back and you look at the entire body of work and you think, damn. Like, because listen, man, like, faster, I don't want to say faster is overrated, but the assumption and jump to conclusion that you've become faster is wildly overused and accepted. It's about, especially in long course racing, 70.3, fulls, whatever, you've just shown that A, you can handle a high load, B, your resistance to fatigue has grown substantially, and we're getting better at running while holding a higher load and cycling more and still producing the watts with no rest. So yes, you're getting a lot fitter. So be fitter. Be obsessed with that, with overall fitness, just not, hey, I'm trying to bump up my functional threshold power every 6 weeks in testing, because last time I checked, unless you're doing a super sprint triathlon, it's your race is going to be a little bit longer than 20 minutes, and you're going to have to run afterwards. But if that's your deal, that's your deal. Hemingway, sorry, buddy, I had to take a little sidestep.
No, that's a good one, man. I found that very interesting to think about it that way. The fact that you can sort of seem the same, but you're adding so much volume that...
Yeah, just continuous volume.
Yeah.
And again, it's like, I mentioned this to an athlete yesterday because and he's a huge data guy. I mean, obsessed. Used to be, until he finally got the picture and was like, okay, I just kind of need to do the work. And yesterday, and yesterday I just kind of mentioned, I was like, hey man, it's really cool to see.
Hang on.
Running. Man, chill out.
UPS guys got her going.
Oh, special delivery, more Hemingway.
More Hemingway is on the way. You know what I got? New watch straps. That's how I update my gear.
Oh my gosh.
Well, no, they broke.
Was like a Wisconsin Badger watch strap?
No, it's just the same black Sunto watch band it's about ready to break. I thought, well, I better get one while I'm ahead. that was my gear upgrade of the year.
My gear upgrade needs to be a new bathing suit because I still haven't gotten a new one. I'm just wearing it and wearing shorts over it. Yeah, I ripped a huge gaping hole in the back of my swim trunks like last week, and Allie is disgusted with me because I haven't gone and purchased another pair. I've been a little busy, and I wear them, but I just wear
shorts over the top.
I wear shorts over the top. Give me a break. Feels good.
Yeah.
But what I was saying before the UPS guy, ruined it was this athlete that I was talking to was like, hey, I was like, it's really cool to see your average heart rate has dropped into the 130s for these, and you're doing like mid 10:30 pace now with that, with those combined together, whereas like 8-9 weeks ago his heart rate was in the 150s and his pace was in like the high 10s to low 11s. And he's just been he was, I think I mentioned him a couple podcasts ago too, he's had like 53 days in a row of not missing, of doing something. And again, it's like that is the same thing, going back to like the weight and the person who thinks they've all of a sudden lost weight because they, took a crap. The same can be said for the person who is only focused on eating well and exercising right and doesn't measure themselves daily. Because if you've ever lost weight and you've done it like over a long period of time, because you want it to stick, you're gonna see somebody you haven't seen in a month and be like, dude, you look great. Like, I can't even, you're like, really? I don't even feel like I look different, because it's happened so slowly that you see yourself every day in the mirror, so you don't really see the very, very small changes and small adaptations that are happening. But somebody who might not see you in a month will walk up to me like, dude, you looking good. I mean, you look great. Or somebody you haven't seen in like 4 to 5 months. They're like, dude, what happened? And you're like, hey man, I lost like 40 pounds. But you've done it over like 6, 7, 8 months. But it's the same thing with training and doing it the right way. Again, it's counterintuitive to everything society tells you now, but if you commit to just doing all the little small right things every single day, then weeks and months down the road, all of a sudden you're going to be like, oh my God, I just did this. And I'm capable of this, instead of the expectation of daily measurement and result that this should equal this, and that pressure, because then you're also, what you're going to do? You're going to start changing things every day. That didn't work yesterday. I better change things up today. God, man, I got to change my stride. I got to change my shoes. Got to straighten my laces. Got to put more body glide on. It's like, just cut more stuff out, and just at its rawest form, just quit adding stuff. Like, adding stuff doesn't make things better for the most part.
Yeah. Well, adding in good stuff over.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
For bad stuff. For your understanding, I'm going to skip ahead to the 5th one here, and then we'll maybe backtrack to there's 2 other ones. But I like this last one too, or this one. He was talking about Hemingway again, was sitting in another Paris cafe probably, and he wrote. He was so fluid and inspired that he wrote, "The story began writing itself, and eventually I began writing the story." And I found that interesting, in a parallel of, a lot of times we get, whether it's the new season or the new, it's a new sport in our life. We decided to get in triathlon. You've seen it all the time, 87,000 Facebook posts, like I made, everything I did, everything I ate, everything every time I went out and ran, I would post it and things like that. And then, but eventually, you have to. That's that initial optimism or whatever that's kind of carrying. But eventually, you got to get down to do the work. And he also had a line in there that said, "Work could cure almost anything I believed then, and I believe now." So I think it's just it's one of those things that, yeah, it's sort of like this sort of, ethereal kind of momentum can sort of propel you in the beginnings, but then eventually you got to kind of settle back in and realize what's going on and take things a day at a time and just get to work. Like, it's kind of a carry off of what you're just saying.
It's such a cool phrase, like the way to think about it. You can frame that any way you want to or need to. Is that there shouldn't be this like huge separation. Like it's if it's part of what you do and it's part of your daily life, then it should just it shouldn't create like this huge different part of you. It should just be part of you. Mm-hmm. And there's like, if it's really ingrained, there's like, then nothing every single day is going to consume the entire conversation of everything that you have externally and internally, or with other people and with yourself. It's not gonna have the rights to every thought and every moment of your mind if it's part of you. If it's something you're fighting with or something that you're trying so hard for, it's going to consume you. You're going to lose sleep. You're going to be obsessed about it, everything. And that's where that disconnect, or it's more of a connection, can come with like just making your training and what you're doing just a part of your daily routine. You don't time yourself when you unload the dishwasher. You don't time yourself when you go pick up your kids from school. You don't try to PR dinner. You don't change. There's like, just make it a part of your day. You did it well. It's part of your life. It enriches you. It makes you feel good. It's part of your daily routine. And that's what it is. And then at the end of the day, it's going to end up being something great. Because if you don't do it, then your dishes are going to look like crap. They're never going to be clean. They're going to be in your dishes. Your kid's going to be left at school. You're never going to pick them up. Like, it's just the small little things that, again, it's so not society of like, it's just not freaking hashtag worthy.
Yeah, I think that's it's just part of your life. It's part of what you do. Mm-hmm. It's part of who you are. It's not. I just think there's this humongous difference in part of who you really are and who you're trying to portray. So many things I see now in life is like, and with people and with businesses and even in sports, it's like you're just trying to portray something or some other body. That ain't really who you are, because I know you. Mm. Or I know it's not all that great all the time. Or that's not real life. Like, I don't know about you, but the athletes that I work with don't climb to the top of some like Everest-looking mountain in a bikini with a great tan line and pick up their bikes over their heads with their flat bill and their shades on and be like, crushed it today. I don't work with athletes like that. If you're a coach, you get athletes like that, then kudos for you, props. I'm sure life is great, but guess what? It's all bull. And it's like, just so if it's, but again, that person is trying to portray this thing or this other body or this other person they want to be. If it's just who you are, hey man, look at me and just out walking my dog. Mm-hmm. Like nobody really. I mean, some people do just because they do everything, but it's like, that's just, this is me making my oatmeal and my eggs and my sweatpants. Mm-hmm. This is me going out taking my dog out so they can take crap. Hey, look at me. This is me brushing my teeth. Like, that's just who we are. We do stuff. We do things that matter. It's not. It doesn't all have to seem or be broadcast worthy to be meaningful. And I would be willing to bet that the most meaningful things, the most meaningful people, and the most meaningful conversations you have in your life that enrich you and fill you up and that matter the most, that you would hate to lose, aren't the things that you try to portray and you try to broadcast on social media or Instagram every single second of your life. Yeah. I was having a conversation yesterday with a buddy, and we were talking about. He used this analogy I thought was kind of interesting. It's like when you build a building, you know, all concrete and everything has rebar in it, and kind of forms a structure, and it kind of contains things and it keeps things in line and everything. And we were talking about structure and in life, because it's weird because all of us want to be free. You know, it's sort of like this, and I, you know, wanted a lifestyle that I could just do whatever the hell I wanted, you know, and it's just like kind of do stuff. But there's something magical about structure and consistency, and we talk about how this contentment and how you find contentment in the best sense of the word, you know, just being in the moment and happy with what's going on, no matter what it is, instead of always thinking in terms of, yeah, but I could do anything I want, and you know, and then never doing it. So as you're talking about this sort of stuff and building structure, there's beautiful. I loved how you said that. You know, it's just make it part of your day, like you're loading a dishwasher, or getting out of bed, or walking the dog, or whatever it is. It's training, because if you can sort of, in a way, I don't want to say, you know, take the enjoyment out of it, but there's enjoyment in doing these workouts. But sometimes I think if you can sort of look at them as kind of like just part of the day, it's just something you do, that sort of pattern and that programming makes races easier, I think. I think if you can kind of just, you know, dull that noise a little bit about like the intensity, or giving too much weight to certain workouts, or whatever the case in your life I'm talking about. You know, you can weight workouts in your training plan, but as far as like giving it a you know, too much priority over everything else, or it kind of jacks you up or whatever like that. I think there's really a lot of power in just sort of making workouts part of your daily structure and just doing them. Do the work, like sort of take the glory out of it. And you know, I again, I'm going to just mention it again because I've been through that, and you've been through that, where it's so easy just to kind of project your hopeful false image of yourself all over the world these days, and I think it made me ultimately unhappier, because I wasn't, you know, back to the first part, I wasn't writing my truest sentence.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
I was like way back in the day.
I know it's like the worst sales pitch ever, and you know, for listening to our podcast. But guess what, man? Ain't nobody give a shit about your 50-mile tempo run, you know, with your Beats by Dre on and your Lulu. Like, ain't nobody care.
Not really.
Nobody cares, and they're only liking it because they've scrolled through 9 hours of Facebook and haven't liked one thing. Yeah, I probably like his. That's fine. We need to be friends. Nobody cares, man. You know, it's like. Just go out and do it, and like, you know, go out and keep your mouth shut and just work hard. You know, like, you know, I get if you want to be like motivational and do things, but just always be doing it for like the truest sense. And I feel like the more you do it, the more disconnect you're flirting with. Because, and that's, I think, ultimately what my biggest pet peeve is about it. Like, the more you feel like you have to post it, the more you're with that fine line of disconnect and where my ego was driving the train, that I have to work out because I have to post these things. And then the more you lean into the have to, or the other people expect to see, that's when you really start to tip the boat. And I get it's 100% totally different for professional triathletes, because it's part of their marketing and sponsorship, but it's still annoying. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like, it's just, I'd rather you just tell me like the hardest part of your day or the greatest part of your day. And if, you know, and like, that's really what I would like to see anyway. But and I think I don't want to say people probably think that, oh, you just sound jaded and grumpy and old. I'm like, no. But you know what I do? Every day I sit down and I read training piece comments from the athletes that I work with. And you know what they say? They say, this was freaking hard. Life is hard. I did the best that I could. or I didn't have time to even write today because my life's so busy. What I didn't have time to do was get out my selfie stick and my GoPro and my YouTube camera and spend 88 minutes on this perfect photograph with the hummingbird in the background and zoom in with a little extra of the filter, and then post it like, bam, look at me, hashtag crushing it this year. They ain't got time for that shit. Like, they just work hard. They got families. They have a job. They have life. It's not easy, and it's hard. And so I guess that's, I mean, yeah, I can sound grumpy and like anti that. Just give me a break. Like, it's just, that's not real life. Like, and I'll tell you right now, this morning, most days I get up, I get running in, and I don't even shower. I just put on my sweatpants, the same pair of sweatpants, gray, same pair of sweatpants. I mean, the people at daycare probably think I'm like this broke hobo. Throw on the same pair. I don't even shower. Same pair of sweatpants, things. Put my shirt on, a hoodie, sit down, get back to work, have my lunch, go back out front of the workout. Don't shower. Put back on my sweatpants. Put on my same hoodie that probably stinks. Later on that night, I'll shower before I go to bed. You know what? The next day, same thing. Same pair of sweatpants, maybe a different shirt, sweatpants. But that's it. It's just like, if you ain't got time and like you don't care, like that's what it is. But it's part of my day, and and I love it. And it's nothing so disconnected and special that I feel like I need to broadcast it to the entire planet. That, hey, guess what? I really wanted to do something today, so I did it. And I'm happy about it. And you know, all praise be to my 45-minute run around the subdivision today.
Without taking pictures.
I'm out.
You're out?
Yeah, man, I'm just kidding. But if I could drop this mic without fear of breaking it, I would. But it's
yeah, don't do that.
It was Listen, it was a $16 purchase after our third podcast, and it's still going strong.
I know, man.
You know,
sometimes the littlest things make the biggest difference.
Yeah, man. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, I know. I don't know.
Except if your watch band breaks or your swim shorts.
I have thoughts sometimes when I'm out running, you know? Like, I never bring my phone on my runs. And I'm like, man, if I had my phone right now, this would look cool. But I am always so relieved that I don't have my phone.
Right. I felt that same way this morning. Went and did my run, and I was about maybe a quarter mile down the Greenway.
Your Rocky photo was waiting.
Well, I looked up ahead, and I was like, is that an owl? Just like chilling in the middle of the Greenway. And I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't see owls every day. I think they're a pretty cool animal. And
freaky, if you mean.
Yeah, they're freaky, but they're just interesting birds. I mean, animals. And I got closer, and I was like, oh my God, it is. And I just hit stop and just sat there for a second. I didn't sit there, I just stood there, but I was like, that's pretty cool. Like, you don't see that every day.
Yeah.
And,
I know, but man, I wish you could have got a picture of that. I'd really like to see it.
Yeah, but guess what? We've all seen a damn owl.
I'm just kidding.
Like, this owl wasn't any more special, but it was just like, hey, I enjoyed that. It was great. And I'm getting back in my business so I can die a slow death on these hills. But that's what it was, just like, hey, this was cool. Let me see it. And I mean, you see so many deer on the Greenway over here that I'm like, if I stopped every day, I would never get a run, and it'd take me like 9.5 hours to do an hour, because in the morning out there's just like deer everywhere.
Oh, I know. I like talking to them.
I don't talk to them. I just
not
run.
Really, but like, hey, buddy.
I just run real slow, and I'm like, just don't think I'm gonna
don't.
try to kill your baby and come at me with your hooves and annihilate me, because that'd be super embarrassing.
Yeah.
Because I'm not that trail runner who kills mountain lions with his bare hands and be like, dude, I'm gonna run up a tree and I'm gonna swat you with a twig, and hopefully I get your eye and you run away and hide. Like, that's kind of where I'm rolling with that.
God, I love that, man.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's something, but there really is something like, it's so weird. I always see my dog in these deer now. It's just like, I don't know, I have that like different connection to deer out there, because I see a ton of them too, and they're really, it's sort of this, I love that little connection for that moment, you know? It's like they're looking at you and you're running at them, they're past them and they're looking and they're just curious, you know? It's just, I don't know, it's really cool. But to stop and have to take a photo, it's just weird.
You know what they're not like? I wonder if this guy's going to take a picture of me. I wonder what filter he's going to use on Instagram to be hashtag Wednesday Deers.
Yeah.
they don't care. They're just eating their grass and doing their thing.
Yeah.
But we're just, producing our podcast and doing our thing. And we appreciate you listening. We'll come to you again next Monday. We will be at Run Camp this weekend, about an hour and 10 minutes outside of Nashville. 62 athletes, and I'm pumped. It's going to be awesome. Weather's going to be great, cool and crisp, trails, and I'm going to have some technology restrictions. That's probably going to get poor feedback, but that's all right. It was
not on Saturday.
It was in the fine print when they registered. Whatever, dude. We're not watching basketball.
I'll be up in my room.
Yeah, I figured. But no, we appreciate you listening. And again, always thanks for the feedback and emails and stuff. We love hearing and connecting, and it definitely helps us. And if you want more information on the rest of the stuff we do, you can go to crushingiron.com, and it's got more info on coaching, training packages, swim analysis, the blog that we rarely touch, and information on camps and gear. So check it out. And again, as we said in the beginning of the podcast, if you want to reach out to Mike directly, crushingiron@gmail.com, or you can hit up me directly, c26coach@gmail.com.
Okay, buddy.
All right, dude.
I enjoyed it, man.
All right. # see you later.
# Hemingway.
Let's see you, dude.
Bye.